She was like, what's a cereal? I was like, okay, I'm going to dress up as that. So I wanted all of the recipes to be extremely cookable, extremely approachable.
Story behind the story of the food. It's like layers. Like onions have layers, right?
Thing I see when people learn about this cookbook is the soup.
That's what I had to make first. Hey everyone, I'm Ashley.
And I'm Liz, and welcome to the Besties in the Books podcast. Today we have a very unique and completely spoiler-free author interview episode today for you. We're chatting with Chelsea Cole, food blogger and author of A Feast of Thorns and Roses.
Yeah.
The unofficial cookbook of A Court of Thorns and Roses. I've got it back here behind me in all of its beautiful glory.
Such a beauty.
Which is now available to purchase in gorgeous hardcover pretty much everywhere, including, big stores like Amazon and Target. So today we'll get to know Chelsea and what inspired her ACOTAR-themed recipes, find out what you'll be getting into when you pick up this cookbook, and talk a little about our own experiences that we had making a couple of our, favorite things out of this cookbook. So super excited for that. And I'm vegan also, if you guys didn't already know that. And so I definitely veganized one of the recipes. So I'm excited to talk about that. But before we get into the interview, we just wanted to say thank you so much for being here.
Seriously, thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day and your book to pop us on into your ear and take a little listen in to this very special interview. Make sure to like, follow, and subscribe anywhere you like to listen to your favorite podcast, including YouTube. So we're over there. We're all videoized on the screen for you, and you can come and hang out. You can also follow us over on TikTok and Instagram at Besties in the Books podcast everywhere. And make sure to give Chelsea a follow. She always shares her beautiful, delicious recipes, and the videos are just like, I just want to grab them through the phone. So delicious. So she's at chel.ccole, and we'll have that all in the description box. So make sure to follow her there.
So before we officially bring Chelsea on, I just wanted to give a little brief introduction. Chelsea is the creator of her food blog, A Duck's Oven, which was originally started when she was in college to help other college students kind of branch out into more interesting types of cooking and foods. So since then, she's branched out to a broader audience as the author of 2 additional cookbooks. So if you guys, end up picking this cookbook up and you want more, she has 2 additional cookbooks, Everyday Sous Vide and Sous Vide Meal Prep, which showcase her love of demystifying complex cooking techniques for home cooks. So she lives in Portland with her son and husband, where she spends her days camping, making cheese, and exploring Portland's culinary scene. So I want to talk a little bit specifically too about a quote that I loved in the introduction to this book. So Chelsea, in this kind of note to the reader, says that she's now embracing her love of millennial culture by tying pop culture and food together. So this ACOTAR cookbook is a perfect example of that. Chelsea says that the idea for ACOTAR was born after her love for reading was reignited by a series where, quote, meals are more than simply sustenance. They are expressions of culture, emotion, and connection. This cookbook is her attempt to bring those moments to your table to let you feel the warmth of a simple meal, shared in the cozy confines of a dinner with the inner circle, or taste the richness of the winter solstice feast. So welcome, Chelsea Cole.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. It's funny. It's been so long since I wrote the introduction. That was fun to hear that again.
Yeah.
It really resonated. When I read it, I was like, what a beautiful just way to describe this. And what a unique way to have us connect with a book series we love so much in such a different way. So I appreciate it a lot.
One of the things I love about ACOTAR is all of the food in it. It's funny, when I first told people I was writing a cookbook about ACOTAR, they were like, but there's barely any food in it. And I'm like, I think that there's a lot of food in it. Yeah. And a lot of dining scenes and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a great way to do scene setting and just give you an idea of the vibe of everything as you're reading.
Yeah, agreed. Totally. It's so cool to see everything transform from what we read about into our mouths.
Exactly. Yes. And it's just another way to spend some time in Prithian after you've read the books 3 times and you're like, okay, maybe I need to not read it anymore, but I can do something else.
Perfect.
Totally.
Love that. So over on our podcast, we always like to kind of start off a little bit of an icebreaker with each episode being a fave and fail. So we're going to put you on the spot here and ask you what was your favorite and maybe your least favorite part, a bit of a fail, maybe when creating this cookbook and the writing process, if you have any.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll give you I'll give you kind of a double part answer, like both a fave and fail in one of it. Was that I wrote this cookbook when I was like newly postpartum with my first child, which if you are a mom, you understand how difficult that is. But it also like made that time really special, and like it's fun to like think back like, oh yeah, I was developing that recipe with my son strapped to me, or like I remember a day when I had a meltdown and told my husband I'd been trying to develop this recipe for 3 days. Like I need you to just like maybe leave with him for a little bit or something like that. But it was also really beautiful and special. And then in terms of like specific recipes, Alice's molten chocolate was almost a fail. That one was really hard to develop and to get right. But once I finally got it, I was like, okay, I think we're good. We can do this now. And then, one thing that ended up being a favorite that was such a surprise for me was the orange tiramisu for the Dawn Court. I thought that developing a recipe for the Dawn Court was going to be extremely difficult because we know so little about the Dawn Court, but it ended up being one of my favorite recipes in the book.
Oh,
cool. I love that we're going to get to find the like insider info, like the insight behind the foods, like before we like move forward and make more of them. You know what I mean?
Yes,
Like, it makes it so much more exciting. I don't know.
it's like the story behind the story of the food. It's like layers. Like onions
layers.
have layers, right?
Totally. Yes. Like where it came from in the book and then how I decided to turn that scene into a recipe or whatever.
Yeah, that's
Totally.
so cool.
So when someone picks up ACOTAR, like what should they expect? Like, is this a cookbook that anyone can, any skill level, anyone with any type of cooking experience can like get into? And like what makes it special?
Yeah, so I originally designed this knowing that the people who purchased it this one thing that's different about this book versus the other cookbooks I've written, or just like other cookbooks that are written, is you're not really buying this cookbook because you want to cook. Like you're buying this cookbook because you love the series and it's a new way to experience the series. And so I wanted all of the recipes to be extremely cookable, extremely approachable. So, in the book series, they may use venison, they may use rabbit. I am not asking you to go out and find venison and rabbit. So you don't need to worry about that. And I tried to make it all just like very cookable. There are a couple of obscure ingredients here and there, like bone marrow. And potentially for some people, getting oysters might be like a little funky. But then once you actually have those ingredients in hand, executing the recipes is very simple. There's some things that are more time consuming maybe, like they just take more time to do, but they aren't hard. So I really just wanted it to be very, very approachable cooking and very cookable and eatable food. One thing I found with other fan cookbooks is that sometimes the recipes are just there for the gimmick, versus being something you'd actually like want to cook. And I think I had a little bit of an advantage having written other cookbooks in the past, and then coming at this from the perspective of somebody who writes recipes versus somebody who writes these types of books. And I also included a whole party guide. So I really hope that people use this at their book clubs and like if they want to host an ACOTAR-themed party or something like that. That's kind of the vision I had when I started creating this cookbook.
Oh,
Awesome.
Yeah, that'd be so fun. So cool.
I love that. Yeah, I feel like I really felt that, when, I chose to make a dessert and to veganize it. And I really felt that. I mean, I've baked a lot over my life, but I felt like everything just kind of flowed and was really super straightforward, and they turned out great on the first try, which rarely honestly happens when I pick up a new cookbook. So
Good. Yay. That's what we want to hear.
Yeah. I mean,
says a
I
lot.
just made scones for the first time because of your cheese and chive scone recipe. I didn't know it could be like that simple, but incredibly delicious. Oh my gosh.
Scones are like shockingly easy to
Yeah,
make.
I had no
don't think-
idea.
I feel like this is like an unknown thing. But yeah, they're so good.
Yeah, like give me like a easy bread recipe and oh my gosh, I'm sold. I'm going to be making it like my husband's like every time, every day. Let's go. Let's do it.
Perfect.
Good.
There you go.
Yeah. So yes, definitely very like all skill levels because I do like to cook a lot, but that like I said, I have never made that before. And it was like, oh my gosh, so easy. So definitely
Good.
a good range.
That's the goal. And hopefully like a lot of things that you just don't feel like you can mess up. There's some things that are slightly more technical, like the roast beef recipe, you want it to be medium rare, so don't overcook it. But like there's a slow roasted chicken with the idea that if it sits in the oven for 10 minutes longer than my directions say, it's going to be fine. It's not going to be dry. It's still going to be delicious. So yeah.
Oh, that's so good. What inspired you specifically to make the leap from page to plate? We just love this idea. It's so unique.
Yeah, so it actually was, I was like, I don't know, 6 months pregnant with my first, and I was like sitting on a Friday night scrolling as one does, and I saw my cousin post about her Sims cookbook. And I was like, what is a Sims cookbook? Why does this exist? Like, who needs a Sims cookbook? And so I like Googled it, and if sure enough, it's like the Sims computer game. There's a cookbook for it. Who knew? And it took me down this rabbit hole of learning about all these fan cookbooks. And I noticed a couple things. One, I noticed pretty quickly that there was no ACOTAR cookbook. And I was like, that's interesting. And then two, a lot of the cookbooks, I wonder, my background's in marketing. And so I have a little bit of a marketing brain all the time. But I was like, I feel like the audience for people who are huge Game of Thrones fans is not necessarily the audience who's super excited to pick up a cookbook. And so I was like, that's interesting. I feel like the audience for ACOTAR would be really excited about a cookbook in a way that a lot of these other fandoms might not be. And so I was like, I think this could be a good idea. I ended up cold emailing an agent, which you are not supposed to do. Do not be like me. With just like like when you email an agent, it should be like, I have this beautiful proposal that I am presenting to you. Like, what do you think? And instead I emailed her like 2 sentences about my idea. And I was like, do you think this has legs? And she was like, yes, I do think this is a good idea. I know the publisher. I know the editor. Had a meeting with them within a couple weeks. And it just like, it was very serendipitous. Again, this is not how any of this usually happens. It just happened that way because it was a fairly, like, once you see the hole in the market, it's like, oh yeah, no, that's something that should exist. And other people saw it too. The 2 cocktail books came out about the same time as my cookbook. But so far, mine is the only cookbook on the market so far. So, which it's a lot of effort to do an entire cookbook. So I am not super surprised by that.
Yeah. That's so cool. Wow. That just works out. Yeah. It's one of those like, oh yeah, which we talk about, how much food is already in the series and what a center placeholder it has, just like with any of us who loves to eat, that it's like,
Yes.
Oh, well, of course we need to have that in our hands. So thank you for creating it because it is beautiful.
And there's like so much beautiful food described in the book.
Yeah.
And even beyond the food, SJM does such a good job with doing things like describing the smells of places and people. And like, it's really, that is great fodder for recipe development. And she's just such a descriptive scene writer. And like, she does such a great job with the place settings that it makes it made it easy in a lot of ways.
Yeah, definitely.
So building off of that, why don't you tell us about the different sections of the cookbook and why you chose to organize it that way? So like, for an example, one of the ones that stood out to me was the 7 courts, 8 suites. So like, was each dessert specifically designed for a different court?
Yeah, so I originally, I've learned with these cookbooks, with pop culture cookbooks, I originally had like sections mapped out in a certain way, and then I got going and I was like, that's not going to work. Like I really wanted a summer court section because I felt like I could easily develop recipes inspired by the summer court. And I was like, the summer court's just not represented enough in the books for there to be an entire section devoted to it. But the spring court is. So it has like a whole section devoted to it. And then kind of the way I tend to work is I combed through the books like thoroughly for any mention of food or smell or something like that. And it's like, okay, if there is a mention of a specific food, it is in the cookbook. And then from there, it's like, okay, I also want recipes that represent each of the major characters, the major places, and the major moments from the series. And so then you start building from there. And so to make sure that I had my bases covered for the people, I did all of the cocktails each one is inspired by a different member of the inner circle. And then I did 2 dessert sections. My editor was like, do we really need 2 dessert sections?
Yes.
And I was like, yes, we do. Let me sell you on it. And so one of the dessert sections is all food that's mentioned in the book series. And those are like more bite-sized, snacky things. And then the dessert section that you speak of, the 7 courts, 8 sweets, which the reason it's titled that is because I did a dessert for the Court of Nightmares and the Court of Dreams. And so I wanted obviously each place to be represented really well. And so that was a really hard section to write because again, we don't know a lot about a lot of these courts. But I do know, like, there's just different flavors and foods that represent different seasons and different times of day and things like that. And so I just used that to build these recipes and, like, evoke, like, for example, for day court, I wanted something that just, like, evoked sunshine. And then dawn court, I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do here? And so I was like, okay, orange juice, let's start there. Orange juice is commonly something we have in the morning. So let's see what we can come up with here. And then, like, another fun one that I thought was cheeky is a riff on a devil's food cake for the Court of Nightmares, and it's Kier's food cake. And so just, like lots of like cutesy little things like that. And and so it's kind of working backwards in some way, knowing that you're starting to build something that's going to be retrofitted a little bit once you have final recipes. I start with more recipe concepts than I know I'm going to actually include in the book. They always like a rounded number. So like 60, 65, 70 recipes. And so I'll start with 68, knowing I'm going to scrap 3 or something like that. And just kind of seeing where things take me because they evolve. And what tester and just like general people's feedback is. I talk to a lot of people as I'm developing this, and fans are such an important part of this. And I'll say, do you think that this like evokes this character well enough? And then on top of it, like I'm working on another project right now and I was writing this recipe and I'm like, I don't know if people would actually cook this. Like it's a little unusual. And so I surveyed this group and they were like, yeah, we wouldn't cook it. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to make it then. And so just being open to killing your darlings, as they say.
It's like a whole different like alpha beta reader like process. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is pretty interesting.
Especially I have them recipe test too. So it's a whole different experience.
That's so
really
important.
Cool.
That's something that we don't like hear about like that behind the scenes. I mean, I don't at least, of building out those recipe cookbooks. And I have to say the way you laid out your cookbook and talking about the different sections and everything, it's such a beautiful extension of the ACOTAR fandom that you create your own storytelling throughout these recipes. I've never like sat down and read a cookbook like before, guys.
No, absolutely not.
And Liz talks about the introduction and I'm just like, oh my God, millennial, like nostalgia. Like that's what I feel like we're all trying to kind of regain, in our adulthood and those things that we loved before. And the way you I was reading everything. I was like, this is beautiful. I'm back in that world. And now I get to make the things that I was picturing in my head. So beautifully done. I love that.
Thank you so much. That's so sweet. I tried very hard. So it's very nice to hear that.
Well, yeah, it's like, I think about the fact that it's like, I wasn't really a rereader of books in general until we started reading books for the podcast. And there were some popular series we wanted to cover that obviously I needed to reread, like ACOTAR. And so now I think to myself, like, okay, like maybe every Christmas I'm going to reread, you know, A Court of Frost and Starlight, because it's just a cute little novella. Well, now what's going to make that even like an even better experience? I could literally like make foods from your cookbook and like reread A Court of Frost and Starlight and enjoy like Christmas time all at the same time. It's like amazing. It's like blowing my mind.
Yeah, totally. I know. We had Easter shortly after the book was released, and a ton of people were like making recipes from the book for their Easter spread. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so fun. Like, because I have a deviled egg recipe in there that has like bacon roses and things like that. And there's a few things that are just like perfect for something like Easter. And I'm like, can I make a riff on a Thanksgiving meal that's ACOTAR inspired? We'll see.
Definitely.
I love it.
What ACOTAR scenes inspired some of your favorite recipes?
Okay, so obviously, I feel like the big one, because the most common thing I see when people learn about this cookbook is the soup in
that's
there.
what I had to make first.
Right. Yep. Yes. And so that one like had to be there. One, because it's like it's a double whammy, because it's one of the most pivotal scenes in the series, and two, it centers around food. Like it centers around a literal food. But it was tricky because if you remember that scene, the soup is not specified, and she's just heating up soup. She's not even like cooking it from scratch. And so this was honestly kind of terrifying to develop, because I was like, okay, I just have to put my interpretation on it and hope that other fans are happy with it. And so I polled a bunch of people that I knew who'd read the books, and I was like, what did you picture when you read this scene? And the most common response was Campbell's chicken noodle. And then from there, some people said tomato soup, and then some people said beef and vegetable. Like those were the most common responses. And so I was like, okay, chicken noodle, I'm not going to just like do a chicken noodle soup. There needs to be something special about it. So I went with chicken and stars, which is a canned soup. It's just less popular, and stars felt so appropriate for the night court. So yeah, and then the star pasta is like a little trick. You can order it on Amazon or whatever, and then you can find it in some grocery stores, but it just makes it all the more special, I think, for that scene. But yeah, that one was like a really, really big one. And then even stuff like, this isn't a specific scene, but there's so many scenes with the inner circle having dinner together. And so I wanted that to kind of be captured. So I have a whole party menu that's like based on what I think that they would just have at one of they're always described as like casual but elegant. So what would they be having at one of their dinners? And another scene that I was like really drawn to is, which I don't think is necessarily memorable for other people, is when they visit the hewn city. Honestly, I don't remember the specific instance. I don't know if it was Ferris. It might have been Ferris' first time in the hewn city. And it's like all this like lavish food is described, and they're just letting it sit there and go to waste to show how wealthy they are. Like they can let this go to waste. But the food that's described is these like beautiful pork roasts, and there's ale and cider, and like all this really rich and decadent food. So I did a cider braised pork shoulder for that kind of moment. And it was fun to just like take little bits and pieces of things and then create a recipe inspired by it.
Yeah. I love that so much. So kind of building off of that, but also going back to something that you briefly mentioned a little while ago. So why don't you kind of elaborate on what the Prithian Party Guide is and like why you included it? Because that was one of my favorite parts in the book, I think.
Yeah, great. So it's, if I remember off the top, 7 different party menus. And so they're all inspired by like different parties that you could host, and they range from more formal things like a full-blown like winter solstice dinner or winter solstice feast, to dinner with the inner circle, to like a tea party with the surreal. There's a brunch after training kind of vibe, and so I just wanted like a few different options. One of my favorite ones that I feel like it could get slept on is the mini faces of Feyre, and it's kind of inspired by the TikTok trend when people like each show up bringing a different interpretation of something. And so that one has like Feyre the painter, Feyre the human, Feyre the high lady, blah, blah, blah. And each person is responsible for bringing a dish that's like representative of that version of
Love
her.
it.
And then I tried to make them just like very, even beyond like the menu, like, okay, these are the recipes you should cook, include things like games and different gimmicks. So for example, dinner with the inner circle, the drink suggestion is everybody brings a bottle of wine, because that just kind of feels like the vibe of the inner circle. And then I have like little games, for each of them. So like tea with the cereal. That game is like each person writes down a piece of gossip and puts it in a bowl, and then everybody pulls one out and reads it, and they have to guess who that piece of gossip is, like who wrote down that piece of gossip. And it could be something totally innocuous, like that has to do with like your workplace or whatever, but just you're bringing that little bit of tea. And just like lots of cutesy little things like that. So people have the concept for the whole party in front of them. Like I even include decor notes, instead of just the food, which is an integral part of it, but you know, there's a little more to it. So, and then I actually hosted 2 of those, like parties for friends back in March. It was so fun. I did tea with the cereal and dinner with the inner circle. And one of my friends actually, who's never read the books, showed up as the cereal, which is hilarious. She was like, what's a cereal? Like, why is Chelsea doing this? And Googled cereal and saw like a fan drawing and was like, okay, I'm going to dress up as that.
I love that.
Yeah. Perfect. How long did it take you from planning to writing to publishing this cookbook?
Yeah. So the creation of the cookbook, like getting the manuscript done, was about 6 months. And which like, I don't know. To some people that sounds fast. To some people it sounds long. It was about the right amount of time, except that I was like newly postpartum. So I signed the book deal a couple weeks before I had my baby, and then took a few months off. So I really like worked on it in earnest for like 2 to 3 months. But you know, during contact naps and all that, I'm also working on my phone, and trying to kind of get the bones of it ready to go. And then, from there, you know, it kind of gets passed off, and there's an editing process that I'm somewhat involved in. But it's kind of out of my hands for a little bit. And then the marketing is where it really picks up from there. So the marketing work, I take the marketing of anything very, very seriously. And so that started like back last November. And then the book came out April 1st. So I really wanted to do some special events. I was fortunate enough to host a trivia night at the Ripped Bodice in LA, which was so fun.
Yeah, we love
it was
them.
Amazing. They're so great. And it was very exciting for me because it's sold out, which was like so cool.
That's super cool.
And then there's a really famous cookbook shop in Seattle called, it's called Book Larder, that I was able to do an event at as well. And I threw like a very big launch party here in Portland, that I did ticketed, that people could attend. And that was so fun. So I just wanted a bunch of like in-person events for fun. And then, lots of, you know, online marketing and stuff like that. So yeah.
We want to know a little bit about your history. So like, have you always been a chef? Like, how did you get into this career? And maybe talk about your other cookbooks a little bit too.
Yeah. So I am not a trained chef. I started as a food blogger back in college. And then, I think, you know, I went to college for elementary ed. Like, I thought I wanted to be an elementary school teacher. You know, so many of us, I'm like, how are 18-year-olds supposed to just like know what they want to do with their life? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's insane. My husband's a high school teacher, so we talk about that a lot. But, and I fell in love with cooking in college. I loved my food blog, and I'm like, oh, well, if I love cooking, then that must mean I want to open a restaurant. So after college, my husband got a job that had us move, and so we moved, and I was like, okay, I'm going to find a restaurant job. And quickly learned I will never open a restaurant. My God. Wow, that's not for me. But I worked in restaurants for quite some time, which was good experience. I mean, I can say that now that it's behind me, but at the time it was not so fun. I managed restaurants. And then my husband decided he wanted to get a master's degree in South Africa. So we moved to South Africa for a year, and I took that time to mostly focus on my blog and then kind of tiptoe into freelance like marketing. And I was like, this feels good. This feels like a good fit. Came back, but I maintained my blog throughout this entire time. So it's been up and running for almost 15 years,
awesome.
which is crazy. We got back, and I knew I wanted to kind of pivot into marketing, ended up doing that. And I worked for a sustainable seafood startup. a restaurant group, and a sous vide company doing their marketing. And during that time, fell in love with sous vide, niched down hard. So all of my content became sous vide focused, and I self-published 2 cookbooks about sous vide cooking for home cooks. For those that aren't familiar, it's like a technical, sciencey, geeky type of cooking where you cook food at like a very specific temperature in a water bath, but you get perfect results every time. And I wanted to bring that to home cooks. It's always been kind of regarded as like a guy gadget for like food nerds. And I was like, no, women can benefit from this too. Like somebody who's meal prepping can benefit from this too. So yeah, self-published those books. And then out of nowhere was like, now I'm going to write an ACOTAR cookbook. So, and I've been self-employed working for myself since 2021, which has been great. So it allows me to multitask to my greatest abilities by being a full-time mom and working full-time. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I definitely think that's one of my favorite things about doing author interviews is just finding out like what kind of path you guys went on to get to where we have this lovely finished product from you guys. And usually it's very like, you guys took a lot of different paths before you got here, and I love hearing about that. It's so unique.
It's never a straight line.
Nope.
Can you tell us about some of your other favorite authors and books? And maybe, I don't know, if there's any specific series or perhaps something, even if you can't say, things that have inspired you to maybe create more cookbook recipes?
Yes. Okay, so favorite authors and series. I mean, I think that's a hard one. I guess I'm what they'd call a mood reader. Like, frankly, the world of book talk and bookstagram is relatively new to me until I started writing this cookbook, and now I'm learning all the things and getting in the know. But let's see. I'm trying to think. Obviously, love Fourth Wing. Love Spark of the Everflame. I am reading. It's so good. I feel like Spark of the Everflame is underrated. Like more people need to get on board with it. I don't know. We'll see.
Oh, we're doing a whole series about it this summer,
okay,
so we're getting deep.
Yes, yes. Like I'm like, why aren't we talking about this more, people? Come on. And then, I also am just like a sucker for thrillers. Like I love like a good popcorn thriller that I can just like barrel through really quickly. But the thing about those is I forget them almost instantly. Like the next week, I'm like, you cannot ask me about what that book was about. I cannot tell you. And then I am working on another book a cookbook that's based on a very popular series. And I can't tell you anything about it yet, but exciting. I can soon. And I can't wait for you all to see it. I'm like deep in recipe testing right now. I have an amazing group of recipe testers helping me with that. I'm so excited.
Yeah. Oh, that's so exciting. Nice.
That is. So we have to know then, who's your favorite ACOTAR MMC and FMC? Mm-hmm. And then who's your favorite couple? Like separate from that, like who would be your favorite ACOTAR couple?
Favorite is like a funny word. I don't know if I can choose like a favorite. I feel like for MMC, the one I'm perhaps most attached to is Lucian. I'm like, I really want him to have a happy ending. Like I really want to see resolution. Yeah. I don't know. That doesn't necessarily mean with like Elaine. But I just want there to be, I want a bow tied on that.
Yeah.
And so I want to see him happy. And then for FMC, that is a tough one for me. I often, again, favorites is hard, but I love Alice. I'm like weirdly attached to Alice, even though she does not have like a big role in it. I made her, Alice delivers all the tips and tricks in the books. And so I wrote in her voice, but I think I'm a sucker for like the motherly caretaker type character in books. Like their presence is so calming and I need them there. And she did such a great job at playing that one. I hope we see her again at some point. And then for favorite couple, I'm really boring. It's Reese and Feyre. I just love their story. I think too, for like so many other people, ACOTAR was the first book I'd read in a really, really long time that just like got me sucked into reading again. Where I got so attached to the characters and like binged the series and like loved the place and couldn't get my head out of it. And that wasn't something I'd experienced, I feel like, for like a decade. That was just like so fun. And Reese and Feyre are such an integral part of that like reignition for me. So I'm a little boring that way.
No, I mean, I feel like a lot of people can relate to that story, you know, on some degree. I can relate to that story. Ashley definitely can relate to that story. So it's done a lot for us.
Right? Yes.
Something. She puts that something in there in those stories and those that we just wow, what is it like to be carrying the weight of the world?
I know.
Like,
and have all of us
and then
chomping at the bit for some kind of
for
information.
more, yeah. Hey, but you know, then enters this a beautiful recipe book that we can continue on the fandom and
keep you busy.
It's so good. Yeah, exactly. We love it. And to make it a part of like our daily routine now. It's great.
Yes. Yeah.
Give me all the things. Well, we'll have to ask another favorite though. Sorry. If you had to pick one favorite ACOTAR book out of the 5, because we count Frost and Starlight over here. We totally count it. So if you had to pick one favorite, what would it be and why?
ACOMAF. That's an easy one for me. Yeah, I feel like people are either Mist and Fury or Silver Flames people.
Yeah.
Like you're one
Silver
or
Flames.
Yeah, one or the other, and I'm Mist and Fury. Like I again just like love Reese and Farrah's love story. I think that this was such a good. I'm also like a sucker for a slow burn romance. Like I'm always a little bummed when they get together too quickly, and this was like very good pacing for me. And so yeah, I love their story. I love that whole book and like the way it starts out, the way it ends. I mean, the way it ends, my God. But yeah, no, definitely my favorite. Out
of all the Sarah J. Maas book series there are, is ACOTAR your favorite?
Yes. I will say I'm desperate to revisit Throne of Glass. For me, when I read a fantasy book, I need to read it twice. Because I feel like the first time you're so distracted by the world building.
Kind of.
Yeah. That you miss a lot of things. And so when you are able to go back and read it again, you're less like caught up in like trying to remember whatever it might be and can focus more on the story. And so I actually started a reread and then this other book deal came along. And so I've kind of pivoted my focus to that. But I need to go back and finish this. I'm actually pregnant again. And so I'm like, okay, so maybe some like postpartum listening will be Throne of Glass. So yeah, I want to revisit. And then if I'm being totally honest, Crescent City is just not a favorite for me. I struggle with urban fantasy. At the moment somebody says cell phone, I'm like, wait, what? No, I can't do it, which is ironic because I have read most of Zodiac Academy. But yeah, no. So Crescent City is not a favorite for me. I'm not a Crescent City gal.
Yeah. Hey, we get it. We love it, but we get it.
Yeah.
It's
There's something for everyone.
And it's very cumbersome, for sure.
Yeah.
Also, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
On so many things.
I know. It's very busy. I'm trying to finish this manuscript before my daughter is born in July, so we'll see how it goes.
Oh, yeah. Soon.
Yeah.
So were there any recipes that you put into the book that are extra meaningful for you and why?
Oh, interesting. I don't know like the best way to describe that. I think one that I found fun, a controversial character who I can't even say like I like, but I feel like is still important, is Farrah's dad. And like, do we like him? I don't know. He has like a good little redemption arc in the series, but yeah, he's a toughie. And so I knew I wanted a recipe for him, and I did a merchant spice chicken pie. It's like a chicken pot pie, but it's like really heavily spiced, and it's like this like warm, it's just like an even more comforting version of a chicken pot pie. And that is one of my favorite tasting recipes in the book. It's my husband's favorite recipe in the book. And it was just fun to create a recipe inspired by him too. But yeah, I think that would probably be the closest. I'm trying to think if there's anything I remember like developing with my son or something like that. But honestly, it's kind of a blur.
Yeah. So then just to kind of like build on that a little bit for me personally, obviously, as I said before, you know, for anyone who didn't know, I'm vegan. I'm sure that most of our listeners know that about me now. So my challenge, and I'm more of a baker. I'm not really too much of a cook. That's more of like my husband's area. I'm more of a baker. So for me, it's always like, okay, how can I take this and then veganize the recipe and have it turn out good enough to where it is my non-vegan husband approved though, you know?
Totally.
And so, as I said before, I made the Cassian's chocolate cupcakes. They turned out perfect with all the vegan subs. But I was just curious, do you have any tips at all on how to veganize other recipes in the cookbook specifically?
Yeah, vegan is hard. There's a lot that are vegetarian. Vegan is a little tougher. But if you are a great vegan cook like yourself, then you're going to know how to make those swaps. There's a vegetable gratin in there that I love. It's like represented. It's like all these different colors of vegetables that I just kind of wanted to be a nod to Fair's painting. And so that one could potentially be relatively easy to veganize, and just making like dairy swaps in there. And then I'm trying to think for some of like the main dishes, because which that actually is a main dish. And then there's actually Savanda's stew is a great one that if it's not vegan, it's very close to vegan. It's got ghee in it. I'm pretty sure that's the only thing that's not vegan.
So easy to sub. Yeah.
So easy. Yeah. And that one is great. It's just like a really rich chickpea stew. That scene when they're at the restaurant in Valaris is so fun because they talk about all the spices and like the smells and how the food makes you feel. And so that's actually one of my favorite recipes. It's just a bit more of a winter recipe because it's just this like really rich chickpea stew. And my very non-vegetarian husband loves that one too. So, and it was actually a big hit with my son even. So.
Good. Yeah, because I know that, like, a lot of people that I've connected with, over my Bookstagram journey and then here on the podcast, our journey too, are vegans or eat, a lot of plant-based foods. So I just wanted to make sure that our listeners are aware that you can veganize a lot of the recipes in this book. So totally. Don't let that prevent you from picking it up.
Yeah. And there's and a lot of things it's like as simple as like omit bacon and it's going to be fine. And then, unfortunately with the main dishes, it's kind of just based on her writing, which is a lot of like roasts and chicken and fish and things like that. So a little less friendly.
Yeah, but there's something for everyone. I think that's what I want people to kind of come across, is that there's something that everyone can find in here.
Yeah, totally.
Well, and luckily, like in this year of 2025, I feel like vegan items are so much more accessible now and good.
Yes.
Yeah. Like it's not just soy paste everything. Like Liz comes and visits me and we make vegan French toast because the egg substitute now is perfect. Like you wouldn't know the difference between a scrambled egg and a vegan, whatever they make it out of, flaxseed, something. I don't know.
Yes.
So you can easily, I think, substitute in a lot of these recipes. And even some of the vegan, faux meats now that you could substitute in the chicken and soup recipe. Use vegetable broth instead of chicken broth. Yeah, it should
even
be
like
super
the ground
easy.
Walnut thing for ground beef. Like I've had that before. So good.
Yeah. Use Beyond Meat, to me is better than ground beef. So easy. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. It's all how you flavor it, really. So.
Yep.
Okay. So why do you think food is such an important part of the ACOTAR series?
I think that it's just a really great author's tool that a lot of people don't take advantage of, because it does tell you what is being eaten and how it's being eaten is such a great way to set a scene. Like if it's a casual buffet breakfast type thing, you get a vibe for what that room feels like. If it's a big sit down dinner, that's an entirely different vibe. And then what's being eaten tells you so much, because it tells you about the place. It tells you about how rich the place is, how rich the people are, things like that, what they prioritize. Do they prioritize like this look of elegance and opulence, or are they more like, we're just here to enjoy each other and eat something nice? And so I think it's such a great author's tool, and SJM does such a great job of using it.
Yeah, agreed. For sure. How do you think bringing these foods to life can help us as readers enjoy some of our favorite books more? Yeah,
I think it's just another way to experience it. And I think it's fun to think like, okay, so maybe like the cookies that Feyre has when she is waiting for Tamlin to come back from Calanmai, like the first time, or like when she's kind of new in Prythian, it's like you can kind of feel what it's like, okay, I'm anxious and just trying to pass the time, and so I'm going to shove a bunch of chocolate cookies in my mouth. And it's like, okay, yeah, we've all been there. And it just like allows you to kind of think about that. It's also just a fun way to play. Like, of course, I included a recipe for fairy wine in the book. And so it's like, that's just like a fun, random, like little thing. And even if you're hosting a backyard barbecue that has nothing to do with ACOTAR and you make a recipe like that, it's like, you know that it's this fun little nod, and like while you're drinking it or whatever, you can enjoy that. And then if there's somebody else there who's read the series and loved it, you can be like, this is fairy wine. And then it's just this like fun little thing that you're able to do. Or if it gives you an opportunity to like do something with your book club that's a little bit different, that's really fun too. Like something where you can cook together or just bring the food together. It just is a different way to bring Prithian into your life.
I love, going back to the barbecue, you guys, Chelsea gave us another way to introduce A Court of Thorns and Roses to more people. Like, hey, have you read this book yet? Enter,
slip it in.
Come into the fandom with us. You get to eat
Totally.
this good
Oh, like
food
you thought
too.
this was good? Yeah. Guess what book it's from?
Yeah. Maniacal plans. I love it.
Right?
Yes.
As if we need like another reason to bring ACOTAR up in everyday conversation.
Right. Totally.
I think for me, it's like, we know that, the olfactory system smells, like obviously foods, like that is all really tied to like memory very closely. And so I think for me, that's what kind of stands out is like one of my favorite things about reading books that really affect my life is remembering, maybe where did I buy that book? What was going on in my life at the time that I read it for the first time? Maybe where was I? Was I on a vacation? Like, all these kind of different things. And I think that you tying food into that can make those memories even more like rich. And I think that that's what I'm really looking forward to kind of like incorporating as I move forward through the year and maybe choose to cook these recipes on special occasions with other people and kind of like make these memories.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I'm like even thinking about like next time I go down and visit Ashley, like maybe we'll cook a couple things together, like that'll be exciting.
Yeah. And it just gives you like framework for something too. Like if you're like, oh crap, what am I going to do for this? It's like, oh yeah, it could be ACOTAR themed or whatever.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love it. So, you already told us that you're working on a new project that's based on a popular book series, right? Okay, so I did see that one of your goals is to bring the fantastical dishes from the pages of popular series, TV shows, and movies to the tables of fans everywhere. So that really struck out to me because I was like, okay, can we also expect something from like maybe more of like the TV movie sector coming in the future?
I would love it. I'm like, it's like just like finding the right thing because it's kind of tricky because so many of these things are such flash in the pan moments, and cookbooks take so long to write. And so you can't just like, it's unlike social media where, you could film a video and it's available the next day. This is like, a year minimum really to make. And so it's like looking for those things that have staying power that are keeping people interested, and that where you feel like the audience would be people who would be excited about a cookbook. So for example, like The Last of Us, I'm not sure that a cookbook works well.
A lot of mushroom recipes in that one.
Yeah, exactly. Or like White Lotus would be fun. They have a cocktail book for it, which is great. And so kind of like looking for those right opportunities is the tricky thing, but I would love to. I'm just like searching for the right thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see what you come up with next. And thank you for, that's a lot of work. Because not only are you writing in and of itself is a huge task. And then you have to like make and create these recipes and perfect them first. Amazing. Incredible.
Thank you.
And make sure
it's so fun, but it is a lot of work.
It does it justice. It goes to the fan. Like there's so many moving parts. So good job.
Thank you.
We can tell through the writing and how you made it that all that blood, sweat, and tears, it's for naught. You did amazing. It's not for naught.
Perfect.
All right, so we're going to kind of start wrapping this up here, and we always like to do a bit of an unhinged smash or pass. So It doesn't have to be literal, but, just as whatever, We're going to do an F, marry, kill this time for Chelsea between the Bat Boys.
Okay, so I was actually asked this recently. It's like so hard. Mary, I feel like there's no right answer.
Yeah.
But everybody knows that going in. Fuck Cassian, marry Reese, kill Azriel. I'm sorry, Azriel.
Yep, that's what I said too. Is that what you said too, Ash? I can't remember.
Oh yeah, hard yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know you well enough, Azriel. Like,
Yeah, that's the problem, you know? So it's like
Yeah.
he could, our answers could change later, but as it stands right now, I think we're all in agreement here.
yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
He has that mystery thing going, but it's not working for him in this round.
Not enough.
No, anymore.
Not marriage material yet, so hey. Oh, we love that.
I think that pretty much wraps it up, unless you have any last little things you want to mention about the cookbook or anything like that.
I don't think so. I'd say one of the really exciting things I got to do with this book is Barnes & Noble opted for an exclusive edition.
Ooh.
So it's got a gorgeous cloth and foil cover and 5 exclusive recipes that I got to develop for it. So that was really fun. So if you want the pretty exclusive, it's a limited run. Once they're gone, and they're available at Barnes & Noble.
It has that great texture on there. I saw it the other day when I was there. I was like, ooh, this is velvety.
It's so pretty. It's so pretty.
So cool. Well, thank you so much, Chelsea, for joining us today. We appreciate you taking time from your very busy life. Congratulations on all your spinning hats that you have finished and going. Amazing. We are loving this cookbook so much. You guys, make sure you go and pick up your copy if you haven't yet. Pretty much anywhere, like Liz said, Target, Amazon, the Barnes & Noble's exclusive, and start cooking. Make sure to tag Chelsea when you do cook a recipe if you share it on social media. Her IG is at chel.ccole, and I'll have all that information down in the description box. Give her a follow there, and make sure to like, follow, and subscribe anywhere you like. This is your favorite podcast. We are at Besties in the Books podcast everywhere, including YouTube and also over on Instagram and TikTok. But you guys, thank you again to Chelsea for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for listening, you guys, and we'll see you in the next one.
See you next time. Bye.